Thank you. Is mic working? I think this is on. I mean, if everyone can hear me, I don't think I need a mic. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Can everyone online also hear me? Yes, we can hear. All right. Sounds good. So we can get started. So, hi everyone. Thanks for joining today. Today I'll be speaking about how to fundraise in Korea and how to approach and work with local Korean VCs or accelerators. So let's begin. Okay. Okay, probably I'm pressing something else.
Can you guys hear me?
Hello. Sounds good. I don't think it sounds good. Okay. All right. Good. So I'll give a quick intro about myself. So I'm a founding partner at 2080 Ventures. 2080 Ventures, we are a global startup ecosystem accelerator, which we do acceleration programs in many different countries. Especially currently, we are running programs in Cambodia, Saudi Arabia, CIS region, and Jordan, and some other places as well. So, anyways, we help startups to enter other markets and help other startups to go outside and come in to A country to B country, B country to A country. So that's what we do. And we also do investment, especially to the seed stage. And I'm also a co-author of a book calling Failing versus Succeeding Company. And actually, it sounds very broad, but it's about open innovation. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the terms. So, open innovation is about how to work with corporates normally, because large companies they have capacity issue. I mean, they have huge resources, but they are not really having a DNA of working with the startups, how to collaborate with startups. So we help them around that area too. I also have written a book about that.
74, Pak.
And I'm a previous managing director of Asia at Mind the Bridge, which is a Silicon Valley based accelerator. And I'm also an angel investor and an LP. Below are startups that I invested in directly or to a fund that invests into the companies. And previously, I had my startup, but also I worked in a startups. I mean, my startup was failure, but the two startups that I worked for was a success. So one of the startup was a Swedish startup or Danish startup. They were having both headquarters in those two countries, and they got acquired by a large company called Phaser Group in Finland. And the other company that I worked for was a Japanese SaaS startup, and they went IPO in Tokyo Stock Exchange. So I worked in different countries. I was also in Japan, Canada, Silicon Valley, and now I'm in Korea. So I'm very familiar with many different countries. and the cross-border and investment kind of stuff. Okay, I mean, I talked a lot about 2080 Ventures, but you can quickly look on some of the numbers that you can have a check, and this is where we are currently. I mean, we are not currently running all the programs in these countries, but this is where we are active with our team members. So we have around 20, 30 team members in covering most of the regions. And these are some of the awards and recognitions that we've got regarding M&A advisory. By the way, we also do M&A support for the startups because most of the startup, starting from the beginning is obviously is hard, but a lot of them also cannot sustain, and sometimes they have to, sadly, unfortunately, they have to shut down the company. But without just shutting down, right? You have your resources that you have built so far, or assets that you have built so far. So we help them to liquidate some part of their IPs or like patents or whatever that they have. And so basically we help startups from the very early stage, from ideation to closing down the cycle. So that's what we do. And let's be more specific around the Korea. So I think you've heard a lot of things about Korea, but let's see just the numbers. So you can get the feeling where Korea is standing compared to other countries. And this is one of the report got a report by Mind the Bridge, my previous company, and they tend to focus on scale-ups. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term of scale-up. So startup is from ideation stage to the end, right? But scale-ups, as we know, a lot of startup cannot survive in the early stage. So when there's a chasm, they normally go down. 90% of them fails. So in Mind the Bridge, what they focus on is a scale up, which is startups that has raised more than $1 million a total. And there are more different definitions, but that's the easiest definition that you can remember. So 1 million above raised, right? So how many companies in Korea is, I mean, this data is like 2 years old, but still you can reference it. So you can see the number of scale-ups, and you also can see the capital raised. I don't know if you can see the light. Is light working? Probably, yeah, okay. Anyways, capital raised 55.8 billion, and scale of density ratio. This is also interesting one. So they tend to get the ratio of the number of scale-ups with the population of 100,000 people. And scale-up investing ratio is comparing with the GDP of the country. So you can tell where the number is coming from. And this is comparison with other countries. This is interesting. So you can see South Korea, UK, France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Silicon Valley, Israel, Europe, and US. You can just compare the numbers. You can see the top one is a number of scale-ups, as we know. And the second one is number of scalers. So number of scalers, it's startups that has raised more than 100 million. And number of super scalers is basically same as a unicorn. So raise more than $1 billion. I mean, that's a bit different because, sorry, let me rephrase. Unicorn is 1 billion valuation, but super scaler is a fund raised 1 billion. So that's a total different thing. So anyways, you can see the number, and you also can see the total capital raised, and you can see scale up density ratio, and the bottom one is a scale up investing ratio. So anyways, you can check that Korea is very similar to France and Germany startup ecosystem in terms of the stage and maturity. You also can see from the positioning map. Actually, Korea is a quite heavily maturing compared to other developed countries. That's because thanks to the government support. Because Korea is, I think, few and the most government funded startup ecosystem in the world. So, I mean, there are also other countries that are putting a lot of effort into it, but in terms of the size of the budget and compared to the GDP of the budget that's pouring into the startup ecosystem, Korea is one of the top. And that's why, as you can see, Korea has developed super quickly. And when you see in the positioning map, actually Korea was in 2020, they were behind Germany and France. But now they are kind of heading Germany and France. I think they will catch up UK soon. So anyways, you can see also the growth path. So can Korea come out of a downturn quickly? But now, I mean, this is the data of 2023. But when you see 2024 and 5, it's kind of getting better. It's getting out from the downturn. And that's also thanks to the government support. And I think we have a few more unicorns, but anyways, by the end of 2021, we had 18 unicorn companies. Yeah, I don't know if you are familiar with any of the names. Yeah, they are from e-commerce, fintech, cosmetics, in many different areas. And these are some industry focus that you can have a look. But I mean, nowadays, right, when you put AI, it's something looks cool. But anyways, you can see where the actual industry was, focusing on. So when you see the first one, it's a digital and media. So you can compare the numbers between the light blue. Light blue is number of scale-ups, and the dark blue is the total capital raised for that industry. So a digital media part, there are a lot of scale-ups, but the total fundraise is fairly smaller. But when you see the e-commerce and the fintech and also gaming part, you can see more money has been invested in that part too. But I mean, this is just for a reference, right? You don't always need to just follow the trends. But anyways, so who's behind it? As I mentioned, government-led ecosystem, right? Korea is government-led. And they say like $2 billion a year as a government budget into startup ecosystem, and job creation is the main reason for government of supporting this entrepreneurship. So I believe in KSGC, probably one of the KPIs for you. I mean, I don't know this time, but previously it was also very important to track whether the foreign founders has created any jobs for the startup ecosystem in Korea. And in terms of the number of startups, and over 50K startup employees are currently in Korea. So, sorry, number of startups has been increased from 2,000 to 15,000. And I think it's more, much more now in Korea. So, from the university, from where you are, the Korean startup ecosystem is helping you. And so I've also written down some of the bullet points, and actually a lot of Korean VCs, like I think 70-80% of them are getting the funds from the fund of Korean government, right? So what does that tell you? Probably, I mean, I'll talk more about it. So government plays also a lot of role, VCs making decision on investment. And nowadays they are more focusing on global, because now they know. I mean, Korea in terms of the GDP, it's one of the largest in Korea, right? But in terms of the market size, it's small. I mean, we have 50 million population in Korea, but still, it's a fairly small market compared to many other large countries. So that's why it's very important for Korean startups to go out and also make foreign startups to come in to Korean startup ecosystem and make it more globally, dynamic. But sadly, Korean regulations for innovation is not flexible. So you have to be careful about this part, whatever you do play. I mean, in the US, so you call the regulation as a like negative style. So what does that mean is like you in the US, the regulations, they tell you what not to do. So you can do whatever you can by not doing not to do, right? But in Korea, they are only telling you it's a positive regulation style. It tells you what to do, right? So you only do what you can do. So it's when you think it, right, you can be very flexible, not doing, doing things that tells you not to do. But in Korea, it tells you, it's like you're in a box. So you have to play within the box. You cannot play outside of the box. So, you have to be careful about that part. Anyways, venture investment trend over the past 5 years in Korea. So, 60 to 70% of all venture LP capital originates from policy-driven fund of funds, right? So money is coming from the government side. So what does that mean is a government, as a central government, right? Ministries. There's a ministry of SMEs and startups. There are a ministry of technology. There's ministry of education, whatever. So they all have budgets for startup, right? So, but there's a regulation and there's a rule. So they have a bucket, fund of fund, Korean fund of fund, and they put the money into that fund of fund, and that fund of fund is investing into many the VCs or accelerators fund. So, anyways, these are just a trend that you can see. And number of the years and number of investments, not number of investment, number of the size of the investments in Korean won and in US dollars, and you can see how many companies got funded. So when you can see in 2023, I mean, as we all know, right, 2022, things got bad in especially during the COVID area. So after the COVID area, 21 it was peak, but 22 it went down a bit, and 24 it's coming back again. Basically, it's saying what it is. And I think you should also have an idea who's who in Korean startup ecosystem. So as I mentioned, the government and institutional LPs. I mean, you are not going to have encounter these LPs, but it's smart for you to understand who's backing it, right? So I just put the highlight KVIC. So they are the largest LP in Korea. So a lot of governments are actually putting money into KVIC. And there's NIPA, KISET, KOKA, SBA. While you are in startup ecosystem, you will hear their name a lot. They are the funders of programs like KSGC is also funded by, I mean, it's funded by the government, but the money went into KISET, and the KISET is giving the budget to the program operators. So you should have an understanding of the structure. And there's also CVC or corporate funds, right? So there are Samsung. So everyone knows Samsung, right? So there's a Samsung Next, but in Samsung, they have also many different investment arms. So they have Samsung Investment, they have Samsung Next, they have innovation, like many different departments or companies that's backing. So I just named one of them, and Hyundai Crero also. Hyundai also have a lot of different teams and subsidiary companies that's involved with the ecosystem, like Zero, I think it was a 01, Hyundai 01 or something. They have an accelerator. Also, they have Hyundai Cradle, they have Hyundai Open Innovation Team, etc., etc. And there's a Lotte Ventures, and there's Shinhan Ventures. I don't know if you are familiar with Lotte. I think you guys all know Samsung and Hyundai, but Lotte is also a conglomerate in Korea, also in Japan. They have many different businesses, as you can tell by the name of conglomerate, right? They do multiple businesses. And Shinhan, they are mainly about finance. So they have a bank, they have like insurance, securities, etc., etc. And they are not only looking for fintech companies, just for your reference, but anyways, there's a Shinhan and there's Kakao Ventures too. They have Naver. There are a lot of companies, large companies that are having CVCs or corporate funds that can be interesting for you guys. And there are top VC firms too, from early stage to later stage. So Altos Ventures is one of the top VCs in Korea. They are actually backed a lot of Korean unicorns. They are based in Korea, but also in Silicon Valley, because their partners have, I think they started in Silicon Valley first. And with the fund, they invested into the Korean startups because the founders are Koreans. So anyways, there are also other VC firms, Bone Angels, DSC Investments, IM Investments. So these are a lot of VC funds, but also they do PE funds as well. So you can, in Korea, like it'll be very hard for you to find a industry focused VC. So if it's large, then they do VC and also PE. A lot of firms are like that in Korea. And there are top accelerators. So by the way, the accelerators, they do investments, and also they run acceleration programs, but it doesn't always go along together. So it depends. Anyways, there are Blue Point Partners, Primer, DCAM, Spark Labs, one of the operators for this program. And CNT Tech is also one of the major accelerator here in Korea. So they are very well connected in the ecosystem, so they can help you a lot in terms of the getting you ready in Korea. And there are also international accelerators or VCs. So 2080 Ventures Korea, we also do investments here in Korea, and we do also accelerations. And Antler Korea, 500 Global Korea, Shimsan Ventures, etc. Those are also other firms that not originated from Korea, but also in Korea as an international player. So I also want to talk a bit about the deck. In Korea, you will hear a lot IR deck. Have you heard of it? IR deck, International Investor Relations deck. But outside of Korea, we don't really use it, right? We only use it in Korea, I think in Japan. But other than that, I don't hear IR, the word a lot. But anyways, yes, in Japan also, yeah. I think they share a similar story because just for your reference, right? Korea and Japan is very conservative ecosystem or business culture, and they tend to follow where it was. So a lot of people, when the startup ecosystem was coming in, they were from the financial areas and also consulting companies. So they used a lot of the terms that were used in the financial area and also consulting area. So right in IR, the investor relations, like that's normally for the IPO'd companies that's doing a yearly, like annual report. That's called investor relations report. But yeah, I think that's coming from, yeah. Anyways, so in terms of the style, have you guys seen the Korean deck? Yes. And since you are in Korea, you should also get familiar your deck into Korean style. But anyways, the Korean deck and English deck, the difference is in terms of the design. Korean deck is more detailed and using more graphs and texts. But for the English one, it's more simple, using few words and few icons. I will give you the reason later. And the content, the Korean deck is more detailed with what we do. So they focus on the tag, they focus on what we do. We are doing this, we are doing that, they focus on that. For the English deck, it's more simple and focusing on impact, giving impact, simple, right? And the content is more focused on why we do it, right? So in terms of why we do it, it's more focusing on the storytelling, pain points and solutions. So a lot of like international startups, when I hear the pitch, they come up with like, I started with this idea because I have a family, or I had this issue, or blah blah blah. But in Korea, you don't hear that a lot. The main reason why this is happening is the target are different, and also the structure of how they make decision is different. I'll talk about that later. But pitching target, right? In Korea, you will get to meet a lot of analysts and associates from the funds. So it's very hierarchical. In the US, like sometimes you also meet with partners, and when you pitch to the partners, and partners are busy, and they don't want to know all the details. But in Korea, analysts, associates, they need to know the details to report to the partners. So that's why your deck needs to be very well organized with details. So they can report, and when they are being asked, they can answer the questions. Right? So that's the basic concept why it's becoming more detailed. In terms of the culture, right? I've talked to some of you offline here. You are familiar with the Korean business culture and etiquette, but I think a lot of people joining from online are not really familiar. So I'll give you a bit of a sense about the culture. So age and status matters. So what this means is if you look like older, then people tend to think you have more knowledge, more wisdom. So they value people with a more higher age, and also with the status, right? So with authority kind of thing. For instance, who you are in the company, right? If you are a CEO, C level, or if you're associate level. So those kind of thing gets being a lot of, how to put it, valued in Korean culture. And with the business card, right? In Korea, I mean, when you are meeting people, it's obvious that you give business cards. It's a Korean style. But when I was in Silicon Valley, no one had business card. I never had my business card walking around. We use LinkedIn, right? So when I was in Silicon Valley, they were focusing a lot on the digitalization, paperless, but still Korea, you need a lot of paperwork and the actual paperwork and stuff. That links with the business card, right? And also dining. Dining face to face, this goes along together. Koreans love to meet you face to face. So, for instance, I'm in Korea, but I live in Busan. Still, like many people contacting me and wants to meet me, have a meeting with me from Seoul. And I say, okay, let's do a conference call or video call, Zoom call. They say, let's meet when you're in Seoul. Oh my God. I really don't get that, but that's the culture, right? And with the face-to-face, they also tend to believe, being close with dining is also important, right? In Korea, what do we have? Drinking culture. I mean, I don't drink, but the culture does. So they ask you to drink. When you drink, they think you will open up and you will be honest. So that's the basic the culture of Korea. And people are more shy. I mean, I don't think they're shy, but many foreigners think Koreans, Japanese are shy. I don't think they are shy, but they are just not speaking up, right? So they are not speaking up in public. They don't ask questions. So, for instance, when I do also a lot of workshops and lectures, when I do lectures with international startups founders, they ask a lot of questions. Chat, offline, whatever, they engage. But in Korea, I think many people, so they are very quiet, I think that's because this is just my hypothesis, but they think when they ask questions, they are challenging the lecturer or the person who just spoke. So I think that's one of the reasons, and they can be judged on their question with the people who's around them. Maybe they're thinking, oh, they're afraid of being seen like, hey, why that guy's asking a stupid question or something like that. So they're afraid of those, right? So they are not proactive, and they seem shy. But on the other hand, unlike Japan, we have Pali Pali culture. Do you know Pali Pali culture? Right? I think many of you do, joining offline. Some of you joining online and probably not. So Pali Pali means quickly, quickly, or hurry, hurry. So in Korea, like people have to, just move quicker. And one of the interesting thing that you see when you are taking a flight and when you are getting off from the flight, Korean people are so well organized. They are ready to jump out of the airplane in a line. Japanese people are more, slow in terms of this culture of Pali Pali. So when you are doing a business with Korean people, they are going to ask you, materials or things, answers like Pali Pali. And in terms of communication, I'm very surprised they are slow in email, a lot of them. And I think one of the reason is they are not really using Gmail, but they are using Korean email platforms, which are not really interpretable with other services. So like Naver or Daum or other email platforms, it's very hard to communicate with other email platforms like Microsoft or Google. So that's also one of the reason. And they make calls. So for instance, when someone sends me an email, I mean, I check email pretty quick, but after they send an email, they call me and they say, hey, have you checked an email? Or I've sent an email, please check. So this is a Pali Pali, one of the, Pali Pali culture, right? So you need to be familiar with this kind of culture and communication style while you are in Korea. And they use, a Kakao chat a lot. So for Korean people, like I try to also make our Korean founders joining our program to use WhatsApp. Still, it's very hard. Even Slack is hard for them. So Kakao chat is the best. And not all of them are using calendar invites. So for instance, when I'm in Silicon Valley, I have to send calendar invite to the person to make sure the time is booked for me. But in Korea, like, yes, you can send the calendar invite, but you don't know whether they've got it or not. So you have to check again with them, whether they have, I don't know which calendar they are using, right? So probably they're using their personal calendar on their phone, or they're using the calendar book, the physical book. And also communication style. The last one is a politeness and a hierarchy matter. So what does this mean is you have to be, still polite. I mean, they don't like direct wordings. So you need to be a bit careful, not being too direct. Of course, it's much better than Japan. Japan is very hard to tell, but in Korea still, I think they are more direct, straight than Japan, but still, we have to think about the politeness. And um, oh, by the way, this is also a funny thing. Avoid aggressive follow-ups. So in the US, like for me, when I'm doing a sales or business development, I have a certain rule in terms of follow-ups. So I need to do at least do 3 follow-ups. I know, yeah. After sending 1 email, I have to do 2 or 3 follow-ups, and I even set the days, right? So first follow-up after 4 days, and second follow-up after 7 days, or something like that. But in Korea, like they don't do aggressive follow-ups. Or maybe you don't follow up through email, you call them or you kakao them. Probably I think that's better than keep following up on email. And how to fundraise work in Korean venture ecosystem. So yes, other VC firms outside Korea, they also do have certain, stages or process, right? So, for instance, Associates does a certain studies, and partners get to see the startup also, and they go to investment committee and they talk about it and they do voting and invest. That's also same in Korea, but there's more steps, because where did I tell you the money is coming from? Yes, it's the money is coming from government, right? Which means when they're making a decision on investment, they have to report to the government. So, and when you're receiving money from the government, there are more mandates, right? So they don't just give you money. They'll give you super hard mandates, like founders. I mean, it depends on the fund. So, for instance, most of the funds should be invested into Korean entities. So, if you want to receive an investment from Korean investor, you should have a Korean entity. And here it says multi-stages, right? And they have to sometimes report to the government, and they should approve. Not all the time, but there are certain funds like that. So you can expect there's more timeline to get an investment. That depends on the fund. And like early relations and trust matters. I mean, this one is, I think, obviously same for other Eastern Asian kind of culture. And the third one, alignment with the national priorities. So national priorities. So as I mentioned, Korean startup ecosystem is government-led. So government decides the national priorities. So this government, with this President Mr. Lee's, the AI is one of the pushing priorities for the nation. So they will have funds around this, budgets around this, and the global, right, the concept, it's also aligned to the government too. So you should be seeing the Korean macro the things, how it'll impact you. And Korea government has a matching schemes like TIPS program. I don't know if you guys heard of TIPS, but for instance, when you get a 100K investment from a Korean accelerator, then there will be a matching R&D grant. It's free grant from the government, 300K, right? So you should be smart utilizing this kind of schemes. Okay, stage by stage breakdown of a startup funding in Korea. So you can just have a look at it. But interesting thing is, when I was in Silicon Valley, even though you are seed, even though you are in Series A, I mean, they had an average valuation and average check size, but it can go, crazy. The volatility is crazy, but in Korea, it's pretty set. So it'll be around this area. So if you want to raise more, it'll be challenging. So that's why in Korea, it's like an answer, right? So in pre-seed, you are raising this much. In seed, you are raising this much. It's kind of a set. It's not like 100%, but more than 90% are pretty, a set. And what to expect for the foreign founders. So valuation, obviously, the compared to the US comps, it's decreased like 10 to 30%. Even though you are a same startup doing same thing, your valuation will be 10 to 30% lower or more. And as I mentioned, you should be a Korean entity, right? So a subsidiary or branch, sometimes it's okay whether you have something in Korea. And the local bank KYC is very tough in Korea. So you should get help around that. And when you are having a Korean entity, then you have to follow the Korean like tax regulations and stuff. And you have to issue like tax invoices and stuff through like digital things, right? So by doing that, in order to do that, you have to have a Korean entity. And in Korea, we still use seals, stamps, right? I hate it, but I have it on my backpack, my seal or stamp. I walk around with it. I mean, the digital seals works as well, but sometimes they say, okay, digital seal don't work. You have to literally stamp it and scan it. And I said, how stupid, but you have to follow the rules, right? Okay, and so for instance, if you are already doing business outside, you have to build an evidence before you incorporate in Korea. So like it'll be great if you have 2 to 3 pilot, the letter of intent from Korean customers or partners, or have a distributor MOU with timeline and target, and any like Korean case studies. And you should have localized pricing and Korea support plan using Kakao channel or hours. And it'll be good that you have Korean mentor or advisor. And these are some common pitfalls for foreign founders. So a lot of like foreign founders, they have English only materials, no Korean champion, right? So if you do that, it's going to be very hard to communicate with not every, but a lot of Korean potential partners. And if you are US anchored valuation with no Korean traction, that's also very hard because they will be asking, okay, I mean, we see your traction in the US or other countries, but can you make traction in Korea? So you have to show something around that. But it's not only for Korea, but when you're going to other countries, that's also same. And you have to be careful with the aggressive negotiation tone. I do this. I try to, be more flexible with the negotiation tone, because when I speak, I, say yes or no directly, but they don't prefer that. So you need to be, carefully saying the words. And applying to programs without eligibilities. So for instance, when you have no Korean lead or no Korean presence, it's going to be hard for you to apply to programs. I mean, KSGC, yes, but other, Korean programs, they will be asking you to have like Korean entity or something. But if you want to get the most out of it, then you should have someone who speaks Korean, or Korean lead, or Korean presence. And missing Korean like compliance items are at closing. So like bank, tax, like invoicing, local contracts, you should have some Korean compliance items with you, like seals, right? Like OTP, like bank OTP, etc. Yeah, that's it. Any questions? Any questions online? Do let me know. Offline, do let me know.
네. 쉐어해도 하시는데 괜찮으신가요?
Oh,
쉐어해.
could please share the deck presenting now? Yeah, I mean, you can share my.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll share it on probably our Slack channel later, if that's okay. Okay, and any other questions? Okay, so thank you, Mr. Choi, and thank you everyone for your active participation. So that wraps up day 2 of the Global Startup Korean Market Entry Education. So we hope today's session have given you practical insights and a clear understanding of how to successfully enter and grow in the Korean market. And once again, thank you all for joining us both online and offline. And we look forward to seeing you again at our next event. So have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.